Hey, welcome to Lunch with Lee. Today we're talking about something that's an issue in Houston almost always, but in some areas it's only during the rainy season, but it's leaks. And we're talking about water leaks and how do you solve them. And it's actually pretty simple, but you got to know what's leaking. So simple stuff isn't simple. That's the beginning. Um, I would say the number one thing, you got to go to the outside. You got to go where rain is hitting your chimney. And there are different types of chimneys that have different components that may leak. But the where we start is at the very top, which is the chimney cover. And it can be a chase top, it can be a cap. Those are different things. And you want to make sure that if it's metal, it's not rusted and there's correct designs. There's metal ones that have seams that are caulked seams. And if you don't recaulk them regularly, that's where maintenance comes in, they will leak. On ours, which we design ourselves, we get rid of a lot of those seams where they're not caulked seams. They're actually metal overlaps. It's bent metal. It's not a seam that's two pieces put together. So it's not reliant on caulking. So we get a lot better success rates. When it comes to actual chimney caps, and this is where the smoke, the sparks kind of come out, you got to make sure that number one, there's a cap on top that stops rain from coming down. And number two, there's not our area, and this is a big deal in our area, where sideways rain can go through the little spark screening and come down your chimney. So there are shrouds. There are, for us, for masonry fireplaces, full coverage caps that cover the whole top. It's very, very important to make sure sideways rain is not an issue because a lot of people will think, oh, they solved it. It didn't rain. Then they get a good sideways wind-blown rain and they get water again. So the next level down, once you go away from chimney covers and caps and shrouds, and chase tops, all different types of problems, is the chase itself or the chimney as it goes down. That can be covered in siding, it can be covered in stone, it can be covered in stucco, it can be covered in brick. But there's different types of fireplaces and different ways that is designed. So if you have siding and you have a manufactured fireplace, this is more of a chase, which means it's sort of a decorative box that goes up. That has to have some kind of moisture membrane underneath it, and that moisture membrane has to be layered correctly so it doesn't go into your attic. And then at the flashing, which is the transition between the roof and the chimney, that needs to be layered correctly too. So anything that gets through the siding or the brick or anything like that hits that moisture membrane and gets dumped out onto the roof. If you have a masonry fireplace, this is where it gets tricky. All brick, all stone, they all absorb water. They're very porous. An average brick will hold 1.5 cups of water per brick. And as you look up and count the bricks, it's a lot of water. And masonry fireplaces don't have the same moisture membrane. So when water goes through that brick, and the mortar can have holes in between the brick and between the stone that can let water in, that's bad. Or the brick itself can let water in. So we have to make sure the outside doesn't have any holes, no cracks, no holes, and has a water repellent on it that not only does not let water in, but if any water gets in, wants water vapor out. Because if you seal it off, you can cause problems with that as well. So the next stage is your chimney cover at the top, whether it's a crown, whether it's a custom cap that we kind of prefer. It should have some kind of an eave on it to keep water off the structure underneath it. So when the water comes off the flat cap or hip bridge cap or anything with slopes, it should go away from the brick. It shouldn't just sheet down the sides. What we have found through actual experience is we will put chimney caps on the chimney. Like it just has a hole at the top. We'll put a single flue cap. It's just a small little cap on the top, which works great for creeping out critters. But then it directs more water onto the concrete at the top and down the sides. And sometimes it can cause chimneys that never leak to leak, or chimneys that leak a little to leak a lot. So, and occasionally it does work depending on what's underneath it. So if you can get something that covers the whole top plus keeps water off the sides, you're much better off. Now it comes to flashing. We went over another type where the moisture membrane dumps water onto the roof. There's another type of flashing for masonry fireplaces where it has to be cut into the brick. And then there's another layer under, it's flashing and counter flashing that goes underneath the shingles and it keeps water out. This has to be done correctly. The flashing has to be cut into the brick, stone, or whatever it's going into. It has to overlap in the flashing and the counter flashing. And then it has to be layered when it goes into the roof correctly to make all this work. Also, in our area, if you have a valley or something that directs water towards your chimney, now we got to PhD level stuff where there's all kinds of ice and water barrier shields, but often that is taking a bunch of shingles up to redo the roof and then putting ice and water shield on and then putting shingles back down. There's also something behind your chimney called a cricket. And no, it's not like something you would fish with as bait or something like Jiminy cricket, but it's a little V that diverts water around flat surfaces so you don't have water pounding up against it. So all these are ways to fix water leaks. Really, you need a professional to come out and figure out where it's leaking, why it's leaking, what the design is to permanently fix it. So, and that's real picky because if you just call a mason, they know brick, they don't know roofing. And often they just know what they've been taught. They have not been taught correctly often. If you just assume it's the roof, the roofer comes out, he can do flashing, but often he doesn't do brick or stone or siding or anything else. Or they just say they do and just do the best they can because they just haven't been trained correctly. So if your chimney is leaking, don't call a roofer, don't call a mason, call a chimney company. And we will come out. We have the expertise to know all of these things and design you a system that will permanently not leak. So that's it for today. Please like it, share it. We want to help as many people as possible that have leaks so that we can get them solved because it's very, very frustrating to actually have a leak that just doesn't really go away. So we appreciate it. We will see you next time. And thanks so much.